Things have been happening in his life, and I know that he's going to come forward in a minute, and this straight girl, Shirl, will be joining and keep us up to date on what's happening in their lives. Would you please come forward? Foster Brooks from Desert Shadows, lives here full-time, and his lovely wife, Shirl. Shirl?
Yes, everybody, it's Arizona Beer Week again, so we're going to have a wonderful time here. I was in Chandler just this past Saturday, and we went to a 4-brewery tour called Brews Cruise on my bicycle, and I just went to all kinds of breweries, and I just had a wonderful time doing that.
Wait a minute, Foster.
Yes, ma'am. What?
This man talks faster than I can think.
Oh, no. Well, you know, I just stopped in for a little drink, settle my nerves before I go home.
Foster, we'd all like to know how your winter's been going.
Yeah, you know, it's been rough this year, what with the polar vortex or whatever they call that thing.
Polar vortex.
Oh, yeah, that's what I said, isn't it? No, okay. But, you know, I spoke with a friend's wife up in Boston this morning, and it's real cold there. The snow's waist deep, and it's still falling. And she told me her husband's done nothing all morning but just stare through the kitchen window.
Oh, how depressing.
Yeah, she says if it goes on much longer, she might have to let the old drunk in.
I know the winter's been bad all over this year.
Yeah, one morning my wife and I were listening to the announcer on TV. He says, we're predicting 8 to 10 inches of snow this morning, and you're going to have to park on the even side of the street. So my wife went out and moved the car to the even side of the street. And then the next morning, we're listening to the announcer. He says, we're going to have 10 to 12 inches of snow this morning. You're going to have to park your car on the odd side of the street. So guess what? My wife went out and moved her car to the odd side of the street. And then the following week, we're listening to the radio. And he says, we're expecting 12 to 14 inches of snow this week, and you're going to have to park. And just then, the power went out. And my wife got really upset and worried. She says, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to park the car. So I mustered up all my compassion for my dear blonde wife, and I said, why don't you just leave it in the garage this time?
I heard that. Blonde, I heard that.
Yeah, blonde. She was blonde. It's a good thing I'm not married to a blonde, right? So.
Foster.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I get you anything?
No, I'm just trying to lose a little weight. You know, I had this shampoo with a warning label that says, for extra body and volume. So I said, no wonder I've been gaining weight, so I got rid of that shampoo. So I did.
I hate to ask what you're using instead.
I'm gonna start showering with Dawn dish soap because this label says dissolves fat that is otherwise difficult to remove.
Foster, we always like to hear about your family.
Well, you know, a funny thing happened the other day. My little granddaughter comes up to me and she says, Grandpa, what's couple sex? And I said, well, if she's old enough to ask, she's old enough to get a straight answer. So I explained the birds and the bees to her. And I said afterwards, honey, why did you ask me that question?
Well, what'd she say, Foster?
She said, well, Grandma told me to come and tell you that dinner was going to be ready in just a couple secs.
Foster, how's your health? Have you been to the doctor lately?
Yeah, he told me that I have furniture disease.
Furniture disease. What in the world is furniture disease?
That is when your chest falls down into your drawers.
Did you talk about anything else at the doctor's office?
Well, yeah, we did. I'm a little worried about getting senile. I'm not getting any younger, So I asked the doctor, I said, how did you determine whether or not a person should be going into a nursing home?
Ooh, what'd he say?
He said, well, we fill up a bathtub with water, and then we offer the patient a teaspoon and a teacup and a bucket. And we tell them to empty the tub. And I said, oh, Doc, I understand that. He says, a normal person would use the bucket because it's bigger and you can empty the tub faster. And he looked at me and he said, no, a normal person would pull the plug.
Anything more?
He asked me if I'd like a bed by the window.
Anything else, Foster?
Yeah, he told me I should go to an exercise class and wear loose clothing. I said, Doc, if I had any loose clothing, I wouldn't need to go to an exercise class.
Oh, Foster. How's your wife doing?
Oh, I didn't speak to her for weeks this past year.
Oh, my, how come?
I didn't want to interrupt her. Last Friday was Valentine's Day, and we were over in Target together, walking by the cards. So I took her over by the cards, and I picked one out, and I read it to her, and she liked it. And I figured, well, that's good enough, so I put it back, and I saved $6.
Now, I know that he has something good to say about his wife.
Well, yes, I do. She got this new leather outfit, and it makes my heart thump faster, and my throat gets dry, and my knees get weak, and I start thinking weird thoughts.
Do you wonder why?
Yeah, I know why. She smells like a new truck.
Did you get to visit your in-laws this summer?
Yeah, and while we were there, this surveyor come by my brother-in-law's house, and he says, I got some news for you. We did some surveying, and we've discovered that your farm is not in Minnesota, it's actually in Wisconsin.
Really?
My brother-in-law said, well, that is wonderful news, because I was just telling my wife this morning that I don't think I could spend another winter in Minnesota. Some of you may have heard that one before.
Oh, we've always heard about your dumb brother-in-law.
Yeah, he's really dumb. I told him, I found this pen. Is it yours? And he says, I don't know. Let me see. Give it here. So I gave it to him, and he tried it out, and he said, yes, it is. I said, well, how do you know that? He said, well, that's my handwriting.
Is there anything else, Foster, you'd like to share with us?
Well, I have this friend, that decided to purchase a sheer negligee for his wife. So he went to Victoria's Secret, and the ladies there were showing him negligees that go from $200 to $500. The more expensive they got, the thinner they were and more sheer. So he said, oh boy, I'll take the $500 one. So he bought the $500 one, and he takes it home, and he gives it to his wife, and he says, honey, would you take this upstairs, put it on and model it for me? And she said, okay. And she was walking up the stairs and she's thinking, well, you know, this is so thin. He wouldn't tell the difference if I model nude. And if I can do that, I'll take it back in the morning and I get to keep the $500.
Smart girl.
Yeah. So just a little while later, he goes up the stairs and she's out on the balcony posing. And he looks at her and he says, good grief, you'd think for $500 they would have at least ironed it. You know, he never heard the shot. And the funeral is this coming Saturday. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I have to go.
Beautiful. Fantastic. And shows like this just don't happen, as I know most of you realize. But there's two people in particular we want to recognize, and one is